Tallulah Willis is officially married, and the youngest daughter of Hollywood legends Bruce Willis and Demi Moore has just celebrated one of the biggest moments of her life in a dreamy Idaho wedding. On August 8, 2026, Tallulah married musician Justin Acee in an intimate ceremony in Sun Valley, Idaho, bringing together romance, family, fashion, and one of Hollywood's most recognizable families. For Tallulah, the location was especially meaningful because she was born in Idaho, making the wedding feel like a beautiful return to her roots. What makes this celebration even more emotional is everything the Willis family has experienced in recent years, making this wedding feel like far more than just another celebrity event. Tallulah and Justin's love story began in January 2023, and over the following years, their relationship became increasingly visible to fans. Justin Acee is a musician who performs under the name 90s and was previously the drummer for the band Made Violent. Tallulah often shared affectionate glimpses of their relationship, and it quickly became clear that this was not simply another short-lived celebrity romance. The couple appeared genuinely comfortable together, and Tallulah repeatedly expressed just how deeply she had fallen in love with Justin. Their relationship eventually reached a major turning point during Christmas 2024 when Justin proposed. Tallulah announced the engagement on December 23, 2024, with a series of romantic photographs showing the couple together and revealing the proposal. The setting was intimate, surrounded by candles and rose petals, with Tallulah proudly showing off her engagement ring. Instead of writing a long, emotional announcement, Tallulah kept her message incredibly simple. She wrote one word: every day. That single word would become an important part of their love story because Tallulah later explained that she and Justin had made a promise to choose each other every day. It was a simple idea, but one that seemed to capture exactly what their relationship meant to them. The reaction from Tallulah's family was immediate and incredibly warm. Her sisters Rumer and Scout Willis celebrated the engagement, with Rumer describing Tallulah and Justin's relationship as something beautiful to witness. Justin had clearly become an important part of the family long before the wedding day. Demi Moore also celebrated the engagement, while Emma Hemming Willis, Bruce Willis's wife, showed her support. For a family that has spent years navigating major changes and difficult circumstances together, seeing Tallulah reach such a joyful milestone was undoubtedly a special moment. Of course, there is another reason this wedding carries so much emotion for the Willis family. Tallulah's father, Bruce Willis, has been living with frontotemporal dementia, a progressive neurological condition that can affect communication, behavior, and cognitive abilities. Bruce's health journey has been an incredibly difficult chapter for his family, and his daughters have continued to express their love and support for him. Because of that, fans naturally wondered whether Bruce would be able to participate in Tallulah's wedding and what role he might have played. However, the family has kept many of those private details away from the public, and there has been no complete official account of every private moment surrounding the ceremony. Tallulah has previously shared deeply emotional moments with her father, including photographs of herself spending time with him and holding his hand. Those moments have meant a great deal to fans because Bruce's condition has changed the way the family experiences everyday life. Tallulah has continued to emphasize the importance of love and connection rather than focusing only on the difficult parts of her father's illness. That makes her wedding day particularly meaningful. It represents happiness continuing even during a challenging period, and another reminder that the Willis family is still creating memories and celebrating one another. But while the family story brought plenty of emotion to the wedding, Tallulah's bridal fashion brought an entirely different level of attention. The bride wore a custom Balenciaga couture gown created specifically for her by designer Pier Paolo Piccioli. This was not an ordinary wedding dress, and the amount of craftsmanship involved was extraordinary. The gown reportedly required around 712 hours of work, including hundreds of hours of construction, alterations, hand embroidery, and the creation of a dramatic veil. The result was a strapless silk satin column gown featuring a flowing train and an enormous sculptural bow at the back. The story behind the dress is almost as entertaining as the dress itself. Tallulah's wedding dress search reportedly began with something much more relatable than high fashion: Etsy. Her sister Scout even joked about the incredible journey from browsing online wedding dresses to eventually arriving at Balenciaga couture. It was a transformation from casual inspiration into one of the most elaborate bridal looks imaginable. Tallulah worked closely with her mother's longtime stylist, Brad Gorski, and eventually developed a vision that felt sophisticated, unexpected, and completely personal rather than simply following traditional bridal trends. There was also a beautiful connection to Demi Moore hidden inside the design. Tallulah drew inspiration from a black gown her mother wore to the Vanity Fair Oscar party earlier this year. The neckline of Demi's dress helped inspire the shape of Tallulah's wedding gown. That meant Tallulah was not simply wearing a spectacular designer creation, she was also carrying a small piece of her mother's fashion legacy into her own wedding day. It was a subtle but incredibly meaningful connection between mother and daughter, especially considering how much Demi has influenced Tallulah throughout her life. The final fitting reportedly became an emotional family moment. Tallulah was surrounded by people close to her, including her sisters and her mother, as she finally saw the completed couture gown. After hundreds of hours of work, the dress had become more than fabric and embroidery. It represented the moment Tallulah had been waiting for and the beginning of an entirely new chapter. She described feeling almost out of body while seeing herself in the finished look, and rather than simply talking about the dress as a fashion statement, she focused on what it represented to her personally. Tallulah explained that she had worked hard to become comfortable in her own skin, making the wedding dress especially significant. She wanted the gown to feel strong, beautiful, and unexpected. She also described the wedding as a peak moment of beauty after spending years learning to appreciate beauty in everyday life. That idea connects directly back to the word she chose for her engagement announcement: every day. For Tallulah, the real romance does not appear to be about one giant cinematic moment. It is about finding meaning in ordinary days and choosing the person you love again and again. And then there was one detail that made the entire couture experience feel a little more human. After all the fittings, emotional reactions, fashion discussions, and hours of painstaking craftsmanship, French fries became part of the celebration. Tallulah reportedly joked about enjoying the moment and soaking in all the beauty around her. It was almost the perfect contrast to the seriousness of couture fashion. After hundreds of hours of work on one of the most important dresses of her life, the bride could still sit back, enjoy some fries, and simply appreciate what was happening. Justin's role in the story is equally important because Tallulah has never treated him as just the man she was marrying. She has spoken about him with obvious affection throughout their relationship. In one particularly romantic description, Tallulah referred to him as the gangly, freckled knight in shining booty she had always dreamed of. She also made it clear that she was deeply in love with him. Justin has returned that affection publicly, describing Tallulah as magic and expressing gratitude that she had entered his life. Their relationship has therefore been built around a very public sense of genuine admiration. Even Tallulah's engagement ring carried a personal story. Rather than simply accepting a generic luxury ring, she helped design the piece with jeweler Karina Noel. The ring featured an antique, fancy, light brownish yellow diamond set in yellow gold, and Tallulah spoke about how the design reminded her of an ancient Greek amphora. She described the ring as something that could hold personal meaning and almost a sense of magic. That same philosophy seems to have followed her into the wedding itself. Every major detail was chosen to mean something rather than simply look expensive. And that is what makes Tallulah's wedding so fascinating. She could have easily had a massive Hollywood wedding surrounded by cameras, celebrities, and endless publicity. Instead, the celebration in Idaho was described as intimate and personal. The setting itself carried history because Tallulah was born there. Her dress referenced her mother, her relationship with Justin had been growing for more than 3 years, her engagement ring had personal symbolism, and her own words repeatedly returned to the importance of choosing love every single day. The wedding also marks another major milestone for Bruce and Demi's family. Bruce and Demi were married in 1987 and later divorced in 2000, but they remained connected through their 3 daughters, Rumer, Scout, and Tallulah. Bruce eventually married Emma Hemming Willis, and they welcomed 2 more daughters, Mabel and Evelyn. Over the years, the family has become an example of how complicated family relationships can evolve into something supportive and united. Despite the divorce, the different branches of the family have continued to come together for important moments. That unity has been particularly visible during Bruce's health struggles. Demi, Emma, Rumer, Scout, and Tallulah have all continued to show affection and support for Bruce, while also protecting his privacy. The family has made it clear that Bruce remains deeply loved, even as his condition has changed his life and theirs. So when Tallulah walks into marriage, she is carrying not only her own history, but the history of an entire family that has experienced incredible highs and painful lows together. For fans who have followed Tallulah since childhood, there is something almost surreal about seeing her become a bride. She grew up in one of Hollywood's most famous families, surrounded by enormous public attention. Her father was one of the biggest action stars in the world, while her mother became one of the defining actresses of her generation. Yet Tallulah has spent years developing an identity that belongs to her. She has worked in fashion and art, spoken openly about personal struggles, and become increasingly comfortable discussing her experiences on her own terms. That makes her comments about feeling comfortable in her own skin especially powerful. The wedding was not simply about becoming someone's wife, it was also about celebrating the person Tallulah had become. The couture dress may have been extravagant, but the message behind it was surprisingly grounded. She wanted to feel strong. She wanted to feel beautiful. She wanted the moment to feel like her. And after years of growing up under the shadow of 2 enormous Hollywood careers, that sense of personal identity may be one of the most important things she could have carried into her marriage. There has also been plenty of interest in the celebrity guests and people connected to the celebration, with reports mentioning names including Lucy Liu, Andrew Garfield, and Zach Posen. But the most important part of the wedding has never really been the guest list. It has been Tallulah and Justin. The wedding was ultimately about 2 people who had spent years building a relationship and were now ready to make that commitment official in a setting that held personal meaning for the bride. And perhaps the most touching part is that Tallulah's own philosophy seems to have remained incredibly simple throughout the entire process. She and Justin promised to choose each other every day. They got engaged with a 1-word announcement: every day, and now they have turned that promise into a marriage. In a world where celebrity relationships can sometimes move incredibly quickly and disappear just as quickly, their story has unfolded over several years, giving this wedding the feeling of a genuine continuation rather than a sudden headline. The Willis family has experienced a lot in recent years. There have been career highs, personal challenges, health struggles, family milestones, and moments that have brought everyone closer together. Tallulah's wedding does not erase any of those difficulties, but it creates something joyful in the middle of them. It gives the family another memory to hold on to, another reason to gather, and another chapter to celebrate. And for Tallulah herself, it represents the beginning of a new life with the person she has chosen to stand beside her. So from a Christmas proposal surrounded by candles and rose petals, to an antique-inspired engagement ring, to a wedding in the Idaho landscape where Tallulah was born, and finally to a custom Balenciaga couture gown requiring hundreds of hours of work, this has been an incredibly personal journey. It is glamorous enough for Hollywood, emotional enough for a family milestone, and intimate enough to still feel like Tallulah and Justin's own story. Tallulah Willis is now married to Justin Acee, and the youngest daughter of Bruce Willis and Demi Moore has officially entered a new chapter of her life. While fans may continue wondering about every private detail of the ceremony, the most important details are already clear. There was love, there was family, there was history, and there was a bride who wanted to feel completely like herself. After everything she and her family have experienced, that may be the most beautiful ending to this chapter. And perhaps the simplest way to understand Tallulah and Justin's story is through the word that started it all: every day. Not just one perfect wedding day, not just one romantic proposal, but the decision to keep choosing each other when the cameras are gone and ordinary life begins. Now, after years together, that promise has become a marriage. Tallulah Willis and Justin Acee are officially husband and wife, and their dreamy Idaho wedding has given the Willis family another unforgettable reason to celebrate. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.